Hey there people, so today I am bringing you the ultimate swords guide. These are the best late and end game swords as opposed to my previous best swords guide, which was really about the best swords you could get as you progress through the game. Today I'm going to be showing you the absolute best, the very best swords that you can get the late game and at the very end of the game. These ones are PC only for now. They will be coming to Xbox One and PS4 shortly, hopefully to other platforms after that. But basically we're talking about 4 swords in particular. The Influx Waver, which is this one, the Flying Dragon, the Star Wrath, and the Meowmere. So the first 2 of these you can get after defeating Golem since the 1.3 update, and actually the Flying Dragon came a little bit after that with the addition of the old one's army crossover event from Dungeon Defenders 2. So the Influx Waver comes from the Martian Madness event. So you'll need to find a Martian probe, initiate that event, and defeat some Martian saucers to get this. And as you can see, it's a directional beam. It's a lot like the Terrablade actually, but it's a slight upgrade. Basically, when this beam hits an enemy, it is going to strike 3 times, and if it kills that enemy, those strikes will jump to the next enemy. So it's a base of 110 melee damage and a 19 use time, so it is a slight upgrade from the Terrablade, but it is fairly slight, really. It's a nice sword though, and it's worth getting, especially if you miss some of the components for the Terrablade. This is just a matter of going through that event and defeating some Martian saucers. I recommend a roof over your head and something you can fire through or around that roof. That's just my tip. I did do a video on that at one point. And moving on, the next sword is the Flying Dragon, which I just did the video last week on the Old One's Army Tier 3. You do need to do the Tier 3 event to get this because you will get it from defeating Betsy. And it's, I believe it's a 1 in 4 chance. And it actually took me exactly 4 times defeating that Betsy boss at the end of the event to get my Flying Dragon sword. And as you can see, this has also a directional beam, but it's more of a wave shape. This one's good for crowd control. It's actually lower damage. It's a 90 melee damage, base damage, and a 24 use time, so it's also a little slower. But it's good for crowd control because this wave-shaped beam can basically hit enemies fairly easily, and it can travel through. It actually pierces through up to 5 enemies. There's no like fancy thing when it hits them. It just hits them, and it will continue through the first 4 and hit up to a 5th enemy. So both of those you can get after defeating Golem. Now the last 2, and really the ultimate swords in the game of Terraria, if you've got the 1.3 update or afterwards, the Star Wrath and the Meowmere. So you get both of these for defeating the Moonlord. You will have to defeat him a bunch of times probably to get, especially if you want both of them. I believe it's a 1 in 7 or a 1 in 9, I forget, chance. Basically, you will get 1 weapon each time you defeat the Moonlord. There are some magic weapons and so on as well. So you will probably have to defeat him a few times to get these. Now, the Star Wrath, generally considered the lesser of the 2, but it's kind of a special case. So you can see here, it's basically an upgrade to the Star Fury, but it is a big upgrade. So when you swing it, it summons 3 stars from above. So the base damage for the sword itself is 110. The use time is 15, so it's very fast. And you can, obviously, it auto swings. You can bring down a lot of stars very fast, so it can do huge damage. The thing about the stars is that they actually do double the damage of the sword itself. So the sword has a base damage of 110. Those stars are doing 220 each. And when you're raining them down very quickly, you can focus a lot of damage. Now, they do pierce as well. So if you have multiple enemies, you're actually going to be doing more damage. Although, of course, it's going to be a little harder to hit all of those. The thing is, on a single target, it can get up around 1200 DPS, but on multiple targets, it can do easily more than double that 2500 plus DPS. So, it can be very good in certain situations. Now, the other thing about that is there are some caveats about this as well. Unlike the Star Fury, where the stars will actually pass through solid objects until they basically come out into the open and they'll materialize and become solid, these ones materialize more at a specific point. So that specific point is about 10 blocks above your head or where the cursor is. So if you put your cursor up here, they'll solidify sooner. But as you can see, if you have a low ceiling above you, they're not going to go through it. So you have to keep that in mind. That's very important with this sword. It has a lot of potential though. It is generally considered the lesser of the two, but in the right circumstances, it can be very, very powerful, obviously. So then let's move on to the Meowmere. The Meowmere has a base damage of 200 melee damage. It is actually the highest base melee damage in the game and generally considered the strongest melee weapon in the game. Again, it's a 15 use time, so they're actually the same speed, the two swords. The thing about this, it fires a cat, a rainbow cat. It's after the old Nyan Cat meme. So this rainbow cat is affected by gravity. You can see when I fire it up, it arcs back downward, and it will also bounce off of things. So you can use that to your advantage. It's going to be very useful in indoors. It's almost the opposite that way between the two swords. That this will be very useful in close situations because you can reflect it off of walls and ceilings. I can even do this and I can basically cover this area fairly quickly with tons and tons of cats because it also auto swings as well. So yeah, basically those are the four swords. I'm going to cut to showing you how these work. Actually, I'm not even going to cut. We'll just fire this up. I'm going to start up the old one's army, and I'm going to show you, the effects of each of these, because it's not always a matter of which one is best. Sometimes it's a matter of also, what's best under the circumstances. So you can see, as I was saying, this will actually auto strike additional targets, and that can be good. It'll help you take out a few people, but the Influx Waver is not that strong. It's basically a minor upgrade to the Terra Blade. And in a situation like this is actually kind of the perfect situation for the Flying Dragon, which comes from this event actually, because as you can see, it's going to smash through additional enemies. But again, it's relatively weak compared to the ultimate two swords. So let's bring out the Star Wrath, which is going to rain down hell on these guys. You can see it does go where the cursor is pointed. That's important to know as well. And very important that I close my ceiling there. That was just for demonstration purposes, basically. We're just waiting for the next wave to begin, and I'll show you how this is both good and bad, and how the Meowmere ultimately is probably better even in a situation like this. If you have a big boss or something like that, this Star Wrath might be the better option because you can focus all of these stars in one place and focus all of that damage in one place. So you can see, like, I can, hold this against that portal and it's going to do massive damage. But as soon as you have that ceiling, it's not doing it anymore. And that's where we are going to want to break out the Meowmere. And we can use the fact that it bounces off that ceiling. And that these cats, every time it bounces, though, that does count off of the hit total. So it's up to 5 hits in total, but each bounce counts away from that. So keep that in mind as well. But you can see, I mean, the Meowmere is just... it's taking care of business here. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.